Is Eritrea really the North Korea of Africa, or is it just getting a bad rap? Eritrea is a country that often gets overlooked in discussions about Africa, but it's a nation with a unique political and social landscape that sets it apart from its neighbors. While its coastal location on the Red Sea makes it a strategic player in regional politics, its repressive government and limited economic opportunities have led many to draw comparisons with the notoriously isolated North Korea. But is this label fair? In many ways, Eritrea defies easy categorization, with a cultural identity that blends African, Arab and Mediterranean influences. From its bustling capital city of Asmara to its rural villages, Eritrea is a country of contrasts, with ancient traditions and stunning natural beauty existing alongside modern amenities and infrastructure. But beneath the surface, Eritrea's authoritarian government and limited freedom of expression have led to widespread human rights abuses and a lack of transparency. Despite its challenges, Eritrea has a rich history that informs its current political and social landscape. The country was an Italian colony, then a British protectorate, before becoming a province of Ethiopia following World War II. Eritrea's struggle for independence lasted for decades, finally ending in 1991. However, the country's current government, led by President Isaias Afwerki, has been in power since then and has shown little willingness to democratize or loosen its grip on power. This complex history has led to a highly militarized society, with Eritrea having one of the largest armies in Africa relative to its population. The country's border disputes with neighboring Ethiopia and Djibouti have led to periods of conflict, and its military spending accounts for a large percentage of its budget. Against this backdrop, it's understandable why some might draw comparisons with North Korea, but is this label entirely accurate? Eritrea's political system is often described as authoritarian, with President Afwerki holding near absolute power. The country's parliament has been inactive since 2002, and opposition parties are not tolerated. The government exercises tight control over the media, and freedom of assembly is highly restricted. But how does this compare to North Korea, which is notorious for its propaganda machine and cult of personality surrounding the Kim regime? One major difference between the two countries is their economic situation. While North Korea's economy is highly isolated and subject to international sanctions, Eritrea has enjoyed significant investment from China and other countries in recent years. The country's natural resources, including gold and copper, have attracted foreign investors, and its ports are being developed to increase trade with neighboring countries. However, Eritrea's human rights record is a major concern, with the country ranking near the bottom of global indices on freedom of expression and press freedom. The government's use of forced labor and indefinite national service has been heavily criticized by human rights groups, and its treatment of minority ethnic groups has been called into question. In these areas, the comparison with North Korea holds more water. Despite these challenges, Eritrea's economic growth has led to improvements in healthcare and education, with the country making significant strides in reducing child mortality and increasing access to primary education. The government's investment in infrastructure, including roads and electricity generation, has also borne fruit. But how much of this progress is due to government policy and how much is due to external factors? The North Korea comparison also raises questions about Eritrea's treatment of its citizens. While both countries are known for their strict control over freedom of movement, Eritrea's government has been accused of using forced labor and torture to maintain control. However, the country's draconian laws have also led to widespread emigration, with many Eritreans fleeing to neighboring countries or seeking asylum in Europe. It's also worth noting that Eritrea has been the subject of international scrutiny, with the UN Human Rights Council establishing a special rapporteur to monitor the country's human rights situation. The country has been sanctioned by the UN Security Council over its support for extremist groups in Somalia, and its border disputes with neighboring countries have drawn in regional and international powers. So, is Eritrea really Africa's North Korea? While there are certainly parallels between the two countries, there are also significant differences. Eritrea's history, culture, and economic situation are all unique, And its government's policies, while repressive, are driven by different motivations. Some might argue that Eritrea is unfairly maligned, and that its government is simply trying to maintain stability in a volatile region. Others might point to the country's significant natural resources and strategic location, arguing that these factors make it an important player in regional politics. While these perspectives are valid, they don't necessarily excuse the government's human rights abuses or lack of transparency. Ultimately, whether or not Eritrea deserves the label of Africa's North Korea is up to interpretation. What's clear is that the country's complex history, politics, and economic situation make it a fascinating case study for anyone interested in global affairs. In conclusion, Eritrea is a country that defies easy categorization, with both positive and negative aspects to its political and social landscape. While its human rights record is a major concern, its economic growth and cultural heritage are undeniable. As we consider the label of Africa's North Korea, we must also acknowledge the country's complexity and nuance. So, what do you think? Is Eritrea really the North Korea of Africa, or is it just getting a bad rap? Leave your comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.